know. Okay, but I think we do.
Do we have quorum?
8 people.
1, 2, 3, 4,
So this would be a
5.
quorum
Yeah,
then.
we do.
Yeah, okay, good. Cool, okay, so 6:01, so Alex, can you write that we're calling to order at 6:01?
Yes, I think. Let me just hang on just a second here. I'm getting my writing
We will not
situation
go
figured out.
order.
6:01.
No worries.
Yeah, it's all good.
Calling to order at 6:01. All right, I'll do this on the phone. We're in business.
Okay, great. Okay, so does anyone have a public comment not on something on the agenda?
Hi, guys. Jim Quaglino here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jim.
I don't know if you guys know it, but open meetings law, you're supposed to advertise this 48 hours prior to the meeting. And you're also supposed to post it at 3 locations: Shores, the library, and town hall. You guys hearing me?
Yeah,
Yep,
we can hear
yeah, we
you.
can.
Yeah, so we send this out to the clerk on Monday morning, and then for a Thursday meeting, and then she is supposed to put it in Holly Hall. I don't know where else she puts it, and then Zaylee posts on Front Porch Forum as well, as a more of a courtesy.
It's supposed to be at the library and at Shores also. But I only saw it for the first time now. Just want to let you know, that's what.
Huh, wait, what was the second one? So wait, library and what?
Shaw's.
Shaw's.
There's the board.
Okay.
Oh, they took away that board.
Did they? Yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted to put
did.
something up there and they
So you
said,
guys know, okay? That's other than that, good job.
Yeah, I know it's online on the town website. I know she
out
prints it
front,
out front,
Mhm,
and then we put it on Front Porch Forum,
mhm.
which is 3. But yeah, we try to do it on Monday morning. I
Yeah.
don't know. Thank you though. That's good to know. We'll touch back in with the clerk's office and make sure that's all taken care of. Thanks, Jim. Okay, anything else? No, we're good. Okay. Anyone have additional items to add to the agenda? Okay, great. Can we review and approve the minutes from the January 11th? No, January 11th, 2024 meeting. As I mentioned, there was an error with that where it was listed as 23. It is the year 24 now. So we need to approve those minutes. Does anyone get a chance to look those over?
Look good.
I can make a
Yep.
motion.
Motion to
second.
approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you. I don't recall there being any.
Who was it that made that motion originally?
I think we talked over each other, but I did make one of the motions.
All right. Well, you get it then.
you get the credit.
Perfect, thank you, Alex. And then let's get right into business. So we have with us today, we're gonna start with our parks update about Eagle Memorial, Sycamore, etc. And we want to start with a conversation with Bristol Rec Department. You have Meredith McFarland here from the Rec Department as the director of that group. And we want to talk about a bunch of things. No mow, green up day, spring cleanups, kiosks, any plans you have or anything else anyone comes up with. So
Okay.
we're hoping this should take about half an hour.
All right, where do you want to start? No more.
Yeah, how about that? That's a big one.
Just to recap, what went on last year, there was a question about doing it at Sycamore Park. We got back from Scenic Valley and the price point changes because they have to double mow over there. You ended up doing it at Eagle Park, but you felt that was a little bit out of sight. And then you just kind of promoted it in the town or on Front Porch Forum. What about taking it one extra step and having a little, I mean, it could just be a painter stick with a little something that people put out in front of their lawns on the side, next to the sidewalk, saying no more may support your BCC or something like that.
We did have that.
You did have that. Okay, so then I think
Yeah, we
keep
got
evolving that.
Yeah, we got a grant from Meet Repeats, right,
Nice.
to make a bunch of signs. And so Helen and Nancy made signs, and we have some out at Green Up Day, as well as other, I think there was other
Yeah.
places you could get them too, right?
Yeah.
And you
so
guys
there's
still
little
thinking about doing
ones,
that?
like 8 by 11 for people's yards, and then there was a few big ones to put in bigger spaces.
Okay. But that's gonna happen for 2024?
Yeah.
Cool.
You still
We
have,
have them.
do you still have this, a bunch of
Yeah.
signs?
Did people return them after they?
No.
Maybe they'll use them
I
again.
was hoping they would just keep, use them again.
So, and we can remind them of that on
Yes.
Front Porch Forum or something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Okay, will you take the lead on that? Cool, thank you.
But just going back to like the town green, not gonna do no mow May on town green. It just, it would look like bald spots here and there, it just doesn't, it wouldn't look attractive. I'm willing to look at Sycamore and figure out maybe a couple of feet within. The only thing is, again, like, it's the cost of mowing twice. And, you know, it's a playing field, longer grass, more ticks. We really haven't had a cold winter this year, so I think our tick season's gonna just explode. But maybe we could take a walk out there and figure out maybe the far back area, but again, that's gonna be kind of out of sight unless you do it right up front. But a lot of people use that front area for picnicking and just kind of like, because it's just a short walk, they can just put their blanket out there and hang out there.
Helen, what do you think about no mow May this year?
In a nutshell. I like the idea of it being an educational program where people learn why they're not supposed to mow in May, rather than just this dictatorial, don't do it, and then June you can do whatever you want because nothing else matters. It's so much more complicated than that. I'd be fine with the back of Sycamore Park. If you're thinking that the reason to do it is that it protects wildlife in the form of insects and birds, I don't care where that happens, as long as we do something to try to change the way that parks are being managed. They're not just there for people to throw frisbees and have picnics on, that there are other species there. And if it's as easy as not mowing for perhaps 2 to 3 weeks, that allows some birds to nest and or insects to complete their life cycle before you mow, that seems like it's pretty simple. So, I mean, ideally, it would be near the front of Sycamore Park with signage that explains why it's being done. And if that can't happen, then just do it in the back and know that the insects will be thanking you. Even if no one sees it, it doesn't have to be a do this so that people see it and learn from it.
You still could have signage up front, explaining that it's why it's not being mowed in the back.
Right.
Yeah, that seems like it's a definitely a critical part of it all. I'm a little confused about the price point part of all this, just in that I totally understand the extra cost of double mowing when it does get mowed, but how does that offset or not offset the saved cost in not mowing the previous 2 weeks or whatever that is?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of things. So when I reached out to Paul from Scenic Valley View or Scenic View, part of their thing in May is also when they're there, they're picking up all the sticks that are on the ground, fixing some little areas, and then they mow. So, and that's in May. If they're not coming to the park in May, then the grass is gonna grow. And there's now you can't even see the sticks and the branches or whatever that's been falling down. The price point was an additional $250 to be mowed twice in June, because their mowers won't. From what I understand, the mower that they have won't cut the first time. It'll give it just a buzz cut or a half cut, and then they got to go back through and mow it again.
Gotcha.
when they mow, So my question has to do with the knotweed, is that, are they keeping that back every time they mow? I don't know how much, like, does that make sense? My kind of
Yeah, like
question?
at the edges of where they mow,
Yeah.
are they beating back the?
So
Yeah,
if
they were
we
supposed to
don't,
brush
is it
hog
gonna
that.
keep like, cause that's a big issue there.
So, and that, I totally agree, there's a safety issue involved as well, because the trails to the river get overgrown. So, I've asked Paul to, when they do brush hog, in the beginning, that they brush hog back to the river. And there is a trail there are markers.
Yeah.
And to keep that maintained throughout the summer, and it did not happen last year, I went over there and I couldn't, it was all forested by the
Yeah.
knotweed. So, again, I am asking that he brush hog as much, honestly, I would really like to see him try to brush hog as much as he could in the back. Knotweed's a root, so honestly, what really would help it out is if we just, took like a John Deere and got underneath the soil what's the next the layer that's below the roots, and then scoop everything out. But that's bigger. But at some point, we're gonna have to do that.
That's another conversation. But yeah, so every time they mow though, they do keep it.
They're supposed
kind
to
of
bring it,
back.
yeah, the grass is right up to where they brush hogged,
Yeah.
but I didn't see brush hogging last year, so again, that's gonna be on his list.
That would be great.
Yeah, we need it.
Well, you were saying for safety issues, if there's swimmers that need help or something.
Yeah, I got lost in there. Can you imagine trying
Yeah.
to run to cause there's no cell service, so you're gonna have to
I
run
know,
to your
yeah.
car, get onto the road and call 911. And if you can't find your way, that's not fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever happened, I remember someone coming to us suggesting that we consider a disc golf course, a small trial run at Sycamore Park.
Yeah, we talked about it. I think when we first approached you all, I think we were like 18 holes. And I was like, oh, it doesn't even work for 18 holes. So the thought was doing 9 holes. And it's a flood zone, it gets flooded. And the thought would be 5-gallon bucket that's set into the ground, and then the basket. And then from there, that would be, because when a true disc golf, you're actually playing through the woods. And there's a couple of places in the area that would be phenomenal to play through the woods, and the knotweed. And then there's tees that you tee off of, but that would have to be flush to the ground, so when the mowers come through, they don't have to mow around it, they can actually mow on top of it. There's still a thought about doing that. I'd really like to do a test run. In the rec department, we were talking about purchasing, we have 2 already, but 7 more portable disc golf baskets and see how that goes. And I think that way there's not an impact on the ground, and we could actually see if it picks up.
Yeah.
Well, the
So-
reason I mention that right now is the back part of Sycamore Park seems to me like 1 or 2 of the goals, whatever they're called, the baskets might be back there. And then the no mow my doesn't make any sense, because I suspect you don't want people running through taller grass that might have ticks. So we've got countering effects, demands on that piece of land.
Yeah, what we were thinking of was like a June, after school's finished. That way we can kind of spend time creating that program.
That could work. Yeah.
So,
And then, did you have a math idea for that yet? Because
Yeah, we had a
big
couple of
questions
maps.
was like, don't put it on those gravel bars, right? Because they're just gonna lose your nuts, right?
yeah, we've gone through variations,
Okay.
and it's changed again. So I'd like to present that probably in April, like a design.
Cool.
But I can send it before that.
I'll
to
just
you.
make a note so I put on the April.
Yeah.
That's I'll forget.
Because there are a few more people in town that actually play, who have some input that we'd like to have. But I'd like to start without impacting the earth.
That makes sense.
Sounds good.
But yeah, I just think, just as a word of caution, just as we've seen with these storms lately, like
Yeah,
You just shouldn't put anything on any of those gravel banks.
Yeah.
The one of the original ones had 2 holes, I think, along there, and I was like, oh no. So,
yeah.
it'd be cool though, it'd be pretty to play there.
I think
How
it's-
easy are they to pick up and, oh, sorry. How like easily removable and replaceable are they if you've got a storm coming or something? And I mean, are they kind of permanent fixtures, or can you?
You
Can
can
you
actually
just-
thread them in. So your 5 gallon, if you were to make them permanent, 5 gallon bucket, cement with a shaft, and that's what you put the basket in.
Mhm.
And then you can just remove it too after you're done.
Yeah.
The thing about the portable part, that would be kind of babysat by the rec department to see how that goes, because we just don't want them walking. They're like $106 a basket. The permanent ones, we wouldn't have to worry about as much. If there was some kind of storm, you know, they're sunk into the 5 gallon bucket, so they're not gonna really go anywhere. The other ones that are only in the ground, like maybe 6 inches, I guarantee those would probably float away. What I can
And so
do
just-
is, yep,
Just for the minutes, when did you had mentioned coming up with a map of some sort at some sort of tentative timeline? When was that?
I'd like to present in April, but I would send the information in March.
Okay, cool. Note of that.
Cool, okay, so what about Mill May then? What about Eagle Park?
I would totally do Eagle
That-
Park.
You can do that?
Yeah.
Do you wanna do that? Mill people,
Mhm.
what do you want?
Do that, it'll
This
help
is your
the
chance.
pollinators there.
Okay,
I mean, it's lower cost to the users of that park, and it's you know, like I feel like the greater share of people that would use a park that is going to be like impacted by normal May is more skewed towards Sycamore and less towards Eagle, and it seems like a better place for it in general.
As I recall, it seems as though with Eagle Park and Memorial Park, they're at elevation, so they probably wouldn't start cutting up there as early anyway. So I think that's sort of easily suitable to fit into the No Mow May schedule. Taking a step back to Sycamore Park, I was advocating last year the idea, if I can, to brush hog the outside perimeter, because that's where the knotweed is in most cases, and that's where pricker bushes and other things tend to grow in. And then once the mowing starts, the people that mow usually don't want to push back the growth. They just kind of, curve into the side, into the interior. And I mean, I know I try to push it back, but if you get a start early in the season between the knotweed that is pretty pervasive down there and brush hog that down, then you have a chance to stay on top of it with a ride mower. And my suggestion was to create a swath wide enough such that it could be 20 feet maybe. And that way you can have people that could use the park, walk around the park on the perimeter, and yet leave the middle unmowed. And personally, I'm not so convinced that you have to cut twice. It depends on how rainy and how much growth was happening, obviously, in May. But you could potentially cut just once. Towards the end, the grass would be high, but once it was cut, it'll dry, and then you could go on with your regular mowing. But that's their call, I suppose. But anyway, it was the idea of a compromise, which was at least eliminating hopefully one cut, using the money towards the brush hogging and pushing back the edge, which tends to, I think, kind of want to grow in, leaving a swath there so people can walk around and enjoy the park, but not cutting the sort of middle of the larger open areas. Anyway, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, I suppose.
Are you proposing, excuse me, the brush hogging only for the knotweed section, the knotweed perimeter? And then, because there's a lot of the perimeter of the park that's wooded, that's just,
Mostly just the knotweed, but if you're gonna do the swath, there are sort of other plants that I think grow up and they tend to have sort of branching that, if it's prickery or otherwise that leans into where you're mowing, and then the person that's mowing is not going to want to take that first round and get swiped with all of that brush. They tend to make their job easier and stay wide of it. So then what you have is a slow encroaching of the outer perimeter, and your area gets smaller over the course of years and you hardly notice it. I mean, I've just, from being a little kid on the property that I grew up on to noticing that to other places that I've maintained, if you don't keep that perimeter back and at bay, the tendency is that more stuff keeps growing, and whether it's pricker bushes or forsythia, whatever it is, it just has a tendency to kind of keep pushing in. So that was my thought of some sort of a compromise of using that first mowing to keep the outer perimeter edge brush hogged and maybe mowed a little bit so people can enjoy the park, but leaving the center unmowed because there aren't really branches, I don't think, for the most part, to have to pick up there. It's probably more on the edges where the trees are dropping branches during the winter. So just another way to consider it as a compromise for sycamore specifically.
Jenna, you seem to have a lot of good ideas about this, and Helen as well. Would it be possible for the two of you to meet Meredith sometime at Sycamore and maybe throw some ideas around, see what might or might not work? Would that be possible?
Very
Oh, yeah, you were gonna go pruning, right, this month?
well. I
anyway.
was just going to suggest that, if it worked with Meredith's schedule, that might coordinate just to eliminate, make it only one trip, plan that,
Yeah.
take about a half an hour and walk around and see what we really notice on the ground. And, three heads are better than one.
Awesome. Well, I have that on there anyway, under schedule Sycamore Park apple tree pruning. So maybe that could be the same day. There could be some kind of no-mo discussion.
Do you have that date?
No, it just says schedule Sycamore Park apple tree pruning. So maybe there could be like an email chain going that would include Meredith on that. Would anyone want to take the lead on that? Who's one of the pruning team?
Sure, I could decide and coordinate with Helen initially, and then we could put it out to Meredith or just do it as a three-way email. And anybody else that has an interest in joining in. I think the pruning has gotten easier. We did the lion's share of the work last year, I think with three of us. And so, what's that?
Well,
We said, you forgot Harvey, he was there.
Oh, yes,
3-year-old
yes.
helper.
Yes,
Great. I'm just curious, are you using a
four
chainsaw?
of us or so. That's right.
Just
hand
clipping?
Yeah. So yeah, sure. That'd be great. And maybe there's even other things that we are noticing aside from No Mo May, but that'd be great. And I think we could throw out a couple dates because we're at the start of February, so a lot of times pruning happens for apple trees. I would say, anywhere between January and February. You could still do it in the early March. So I think we have about a month ahead of us, which would work out well.
so
Yeah,
John,
I just have, I run the community swim April or the February break, so I can't be available between the 19th and the 23rd.
Okay, so I'll bar the 19th to the 23rd and then look on either side of that.
and Jono, once you, me, and Meredith come up with a date that we can all meet, let's send an email to the entire committee in case anyone else wants to join us.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Great, and when you're there too, you can talk about maybe spring park cleanups or kiosk, all those different questions you've been having. That would all be a good time for that conversation with Meredith, I think, kind of boots on the ground.
Yeah, that
Sure.
kiosk definitely is in rough shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, there's some ancillary issues. The kiosk, I think of the pollinator garden, sure, we could all try to cover, a few bases while we're down there.
All right, and the answer to your chainsaw question, or the implicit question, I suppose, is that the Edith Stock Fund Trust used to pay to have, they put in those apple trees, and then they were paying to prune them for years. I don't know how many years, decades, I'm not sure. And then when that trust was dissolved, there was no one to take care of those. So we've been stewarding those apple trees since then. Jono and Helen, and I think Nancy as well, have been going and pruning them. Because there's no one else to do it, and there's no money like earmarked for that anymore. No, that trust isn't paying for it.
Yeah, my thought was just the
It's like
safety
insurance,
aspect of the
course,
chainsaw.
of course, yeah. Yeah, just the clippy whopper things, I think, mostly.
Hopefully we won't have a frost that comes too early, like last year.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so sad. Okay, great. Anything else you would like to talk with us about? Any other rec department plans or anything?
Just the update, I ordered the portalet. I get it there May 1st, and I've left it there a little longer because the Boy Scouts do their community pickup. And also there's a fishing derby that's been happening, so I'd rather have them use the portalet than not.
Right?
Last summer, we did have somebody kind of somewhat camping there at Sycamore, so that was kind of we had to push them out, and then we repaired the picnic table that was there. It's just whoever built them, they built them like extra big, so they bow. So just constantly bowing. So let's see here. I thought there was something else. The disc golf. We're gonna try to do laser tag again at Sycamore. It's a great spot for it. But that doesn't do anything like tear up the grass or anything like that. So, and then just a thought, and it's not Sycamore, but it would be something to consider in the future, possibly running like a 3 camping area that would be run through the rec department. It's floating in thought right now, but it would be like, $25, you get to have a camping spot next to, like, let's say Eagle Park, for example, there's 3 little fire pits that you could rent with a 2-day maximum for like a couple bucks. But that would be a great way to bring money into the Bristol conservation. So
They already do some camping at Eagle with the Boy Scouts, is that right?
yeah, but that's really it. It's just the Boy Scouts that have been camping. Anybody else, you still have to get the permit through the town of Bristol Recreations Department, but no, we don't advertise that you can stay overnight because everything says dusk to dawn or dawn to dusk.
Sure. We should think about the management plans in that case, right? So, Kirsten's been.
That management plan, I love that word. It is. I had to share with my dad. My dad is Bob Paul, who used to be the town administrator, and I was like, "Oh my God, Dad, you gotta check this
No
out."
kidding.
And he loved it.
That's
You
great.
ought to see this prayer rock one.
I
Oh,
love
I
it.
did.
Bob Paul.
Unreal.
She told me, well, my dad told me how they removed the rock and then they put the rock on. Sorry, we just totally got off.
Unbelievable.
So,
But
Meredith-
if we're gonna be doing camping though, that could be something to think about.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's
We could
a
put-
approved use.
Enabling language in the
Yeah.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we wanted
I would
dollar cheese on
advise some caution on that ground. There's a really lovely swimming hole behind a church near Rockydale. Some of you probably know where that is. I can't describe it, but you walk behind the church and it's a lovely spot and a lot of people go there. And last summer, people started to camp and it really changed the texture of the place. People who enjoyed going there before now felt a bit apprehensive. These were people camping there for weeks at a time. And it just didn't feel like you're your community swimming hole anymore. You felt like you were invading someone's property and it wasn't clear where you could walk anymore. And there were always, I think we have to be careful that it doesn't change the texture of the experience for people who have been going there for decades to go swimming. Eagle Park is a good one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, what about Seth Hill? No one even knows what's out there. You could turn that into a campground. I hope no one even knows what's there. Only David Brin knows what's there.
Well, I with the camping, we all saw the white van that would park
Yes,
Yes, we did.
before Bartlett's,
yeah.
and they would leave. So I talked to Bruce several times, and he had talked to them, and they always left and came back during the day.
Yeah, David is the student who just joined, who was concerned about people fighting in a van parked down by Sycamore Park for a few times.
Mhm.
And there was, we were there with a class as well, and it was a
Yeah.
little problem.
That's Colin, that's Chief Mason.
Yeah, exactly,
You know,
yeah,
it's
David
not the
and I
rec department, it's not
contacted.
any of you, it's
Yeah.
the police department. But yes, thanks Helen for that, because that does it. That's why I was like trying to do a 2-night minimum, or maximum, but you know how people, then they'll leave and then they'll come back 2 days later and camp there. So, but that's why I'm saying it's a floating idea.
I like the
This
idea.
changes the landscape. And one, people don't like change. So people who've been going there for decades and now find that they have to walk around a tent to get to where they normally swim. But it also promotes 2 nights by one group and then 2 nights later by another group. And suddenly the place is occupied, even though everyone's following the rules for only
Yeah.
2 per group. Then there's going to be campfires, there's going to be trash. There's a lot that goes along with.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I'm on, I'm like, it's out there, but it's not complete. It's not, yeah.
Yeah.
Puts a lot of task on the rec department.
Well, I just threw out the idea of Seth Hill, so, I had an email, so I don't know who was on it, that's Park C, Seth Hill. I don't know all the details, but apparently, gosh, I'm gonna bungle this, let me just make sure, so, David Brin, come on. I wasn't planning on having this email open, I'm so sorry. Kristen, you were on that email, right?
Yes.
I'm not familiar with you. Was it said Seth Hill? I've never heard of this
Yes,
place.
Seth Hill. Okay, so here's what I know about it briefly without getting into the details right now. Seth Hill is a spot located in Lincoln that's owned by the town of Bristol because something with historic water, something.
It was a
We used to
source.
get
for
a
the
source of
Bristol
water
Village
there.
water, a
Okay.
backup source.
It's
So
not on Jim
we,
Dwyer Road, or not Jim Dwyer, it's not on Jerusalem.
you're not gonna be able to ask me too many
It's not-
questions. I
okay.
don't know too much about it.
Okay.
It's,
What's the land like?
it's
forested.
forested.
All forested.
We have a little bit of information about it, but not much. There's a forest conservation plan for it that I've seen in the
Because it's in
past.
current use, it's enrolled
Yeah.
in current use, and so David Brin has been the forester of
Yep.
record for that parcel and takes care of the management plan that's required in the current use program.
And how big is, how
Yeah,
many acres?
you know, I'm
is it?
not
Several
remembering.
acres.
It's
It's-
big.
it's
Yeah,
pretty
it's
big.
bigger than you would expect for having never heard of it before.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, it's got all this information about the water and the forest history. It's the Seth Hill Waterworks property. And so, it's currently I think David Brin is the forester who sort of manages that for the town. As far as I know, he's the only one from the town that knows much about it. And is, there's permits out for someone to have a sugar bush in there.
They
And
they have a
then
lease for the
They have a
taps.
lease of some, yeah,
To
taps, and
So
then
where is this exactly?
I have it, but
Is
it's
it
not
not
at my
on
fingertips,
The
but.
Jerusalem Road?
Yeah.
Is that- is
there a
Randy
map in the plan?
Duran
Sorry,
one time
is
tried
it-
to take us out there.
Yeah.
There was like a gate
The
and then you
previous,
go.
the previous
Mhm.
generation of Conservation Commission members went there. Dave Henderson,
Mhm.
Dave Rosen, and a few others, and I haven't been there.
So
And
I think I think I know where it is. It's like Part 495, and it's a long road. There's some houses on driveways, and then you have a parking spot and then a gate.
It
and
sounds
then-
familiar.
Yeah, and there's a little gate, I know.
Yeah, so, and
Um,
you can actually ski the backcountry from Sugar Bush
Cool.
to that parking spot.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
So I think that's where we're.
Yeah, it's the Jerusalem Road place.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks, Alex. Yeah, I looked at that spot to put mountain bike trails on.
Oh, good, 'cause I was gonna say,
And
hey,
then-
we should put some trails on there.
well,
Got
No.
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so you have to understand it. So David Brand is talking to Valerie about this since July, and I only got the first email about this like a week or two ago. Apparently it's a 113 acre parcel. And, they're doing an inventory. VFF is doing an inventory there. They learned of a grant opportunity through the Otter Creek Basin 3 Clean Water Service Provider administered through the Addison County Regional Planning Commission. They submitted a mini description of the erosion control work needed at Seth Hill, about 120 water bars and key spots and existing skid trails, especially on steep sections. OCB folks ran it through their calculator and it appears the project will be very positive, reducing phosphorus loading to Lake Champlain. It's also a great demonstration product that Bristol can be proud of. It would also go a long way into getting the forest into full compliance with Vermont's AMPs and improve resilience in the face of changing
Acceptable
climate.
management practices.
Okay, thank you. And then the next email I see about this, which was all forwarded all at once just a couple of days ago, says they're gonna review it. He finished the plan, and then they got the money.
Received the
to do it.
funding.
They received the funding. I don't know a whole lot about this. It says it was very well received. The grant will provide funds to install earthen structures in key places to slow spread and sink storm flows. We'll also provide funding for a modest educational outreach to explain and celebrate the work. And I don't know, and I was just forwarded all of this on the January 25th, so I don't know much about it at all. But it is a town property that we don't know much about and we don't do much with. So something to think about. I'm hoping that we can invite David Brent to come out and speak with us about this at a soon future meeting, so we can learn more about what is going on.
That's a good idea.
Since this probably is part of our job and we've never even heard of this parcel, so we're just volunteers. We're doing our best, you know. But yeah, so that's on the horizon, and I thought we could think about Seth Hill. Yeah, that kind of thing. So that's all I know about that.
Yeah, I've ridden that. It's pretty fun because they do the sugaring pretty early, and so you can pretty much snowboard down the snowmobile tracks. So it's cool.
Okay. So yeah, anyhow, so that's something else that's, we can get him to come and talk to us more about what is going on. Anything else with Meredith while we have her? Are we good? Because I think our Middlebury folks, our Middlebury collaborators are here to speak with us. You good? Okay, cool. Well,
Great,
thank you very much
all.
for your time.
Yeah, and
Thank
I'll
you.
send you the disc golf stuff. I'm gonna check out more of Seth Hill.
Yeah, I can
and-
forward you some things too. Valerie seems to know about it.
And
She's
put me on the
looking forward to-
agenda for the April.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you very much for coming. And you can also go visit Sycamore.
Yeah, send me an email. We'll figure out a date.
Cool, thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Okay, Middlebury, sorry that went a few minutes long. We're happy to have David Goldsmith, one of the most recent graduates of Middlebury College with us today. And Professor Mikhailo from the biology department. So first we want to start with just kind of a final presentation. David just graduated, so we want to see sort of like, what's he got for us? Like, what's the last thing to sort of cap off the project? And then we can discuss sort of the next steps and what we'll do with that class after that. So David, could you just tell us a little bit about how things wrapped up?
Sure. So thanks for having me. After I met with you all last, I was where it ended up being about 20 pages of pretty detailed information, providing kind of like an introduction, a method section, and then some more data from what we talked about, and then a discussion of the following. And at the end, I can share my screen, or maybe not.
I think so.
I could share my screen if you'd like me to.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not my Zoom, it's the town Zoom, so. Okay, there you go.
Okay. So this is the report, title page of it. And yeah, it's kind of like a very generic lab report, but runs through the abstract, the introduction, talking about habitat connectivity and framing it in that broader framework. And then from there, I go into my methods and give a outline of Sycamore and Memorial Park, some maps included, and then the logic behind like where I place my game cameras, the settings that they were set to make it up for a replication. Walks through a bit of the data analysis, and I also included in the appendix my code if any like future students or any of you wanted to run through it and see how all of the figures were made. And you know, my Venn diagram cleaned. A lot of this was also cleaned up from the presentation, so there might not necessarily be more information in a few of these, but at least it's should be easier to swallow. These are some maps with the game camera locations on the left side. It's wildlife richness and occurrence with B, though it's showing the presence of domestic dogs, kind of to give a sense of how maybe domestic dogs are influencing wildlife richness. And then I went into the temporal patterns of dogs and some indicator species like bobcats and gray fox. And the discussion is quite a longer section that I think I'd recommend reading, but kind of gives the breakdown and frames all of our results in the broader literature. And then down at the end, I left some recommendations. I think the only addition I made was, since the last time I presented to you all, was to establish game cameras at prospective wildlife corridors that Sophie Mazzuita proposed. I think that like I couldn't get to that within this study because we really wanted to investigate who was at the parks and less so specific wildlife corridors, even though we looked at Memorial and Sycamore Park. But beyond that, I think roughly just the stuff that we talked about in the last presentation.
That's
and down
awesome.
here, all the appendix. So there's a summary poster that's kind of like an outward facing thing if you guys ever wanted to put it up and summarize all the results. My wildlife insights data, which is the application I use to parse through all of the images. All of the images, a few thousand, are located on there. And I think someone would have to make an account so I could share it with them, but once they make an account, I can give you all access to it. The presentation that I went over in the last meeting, and then there was an informative poster that I put up at the start of the project, and finally my code in R, which I synthesized all the data and figures from. So
That's so cool.
This is awesome, David.
thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, I love it. There's links. Those are those like on Google Docs, or are they going to be
Yeah, so
long term?
let's see how this. Okay. Yeah, but it is, I don't know why my computer is being silly, but these are hyperlinked, so it does go to a Google Doc. I can, let me stop screen sharing for a second, and then I will go back into it.
I was thinking about like long term, maybe we should download those, so we'll have those as well, because that sounds like good stuff.
Yeah, here, let me get into it. There's all a big folder. Okay, now I can share my screen. That's not the right screen. Sorry. But yeah, it's all downloaded onto a Google folder somewhere. Okay. It's not handling me right now.
That's okay.
All right. But yeah, it's all hyperlinked and you should be able to view all of it. And if you can't, feel free to contact me and I will update everything.
So
That's awesome.
one of the things you said is that if somebody establishes an account on the something Insight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that if that means then that our committee has access to thousands of photographs of things in the park.
Is
So-
that the,
Please do.
is that
I
the,
looked
like,
for Carolyn, but couldn't find her on the website.
is that the like AI trail camera picture sorting gizmo?
It is, yeah. It's AI to an extent. So AI did help me with some of the stuff, but I ended up kind of parsing through all those images myself. But yeah, it's cool. Have you used it, Alex?
No, I've heard about it though, and I thought that was what you were talking about when it was brought up.
Yeah, it's super sweet. It's a great way to also just organize it. So if you were interested in just looking at like deer or something, you could filter it by
Yeah.
that and get every image of deer that we collected throughout that project. And then you could
Wow.
even filter it like by camera or location. It gives a lot of data. It's a really great resource.
That's really cool.
I have just an interjection, which is I saw on Front Porch Forum on the New Haven site that they had a picture of what I think it was a bobcat. It blended in so incredibly camouflaged to the surroundings. And so I think AI might be helpful, I guess, because they said they have to go through their images much more carefully because this was so camouflaged that, so that's number one. Number two is, was there any checking in with New Haven? Because it seems as though they're doing the same type of thing that we're doing. And obviously some collaboration might be very beneficial, but I just didn't know. I think we had talked about other conservation commissions doing some of this type of work. So any thoughts on that?
I'm not too familiar with the New Haven project with camera trapping, but as for the first point you've made, totally the AI is not entirely accurate with IDing, even if it does capture that there is wildlife there, they don't recognize that it's the right wildlife. Often enough, the AI generation definitely needs a lot of work. So I did parse through all of the images by hand and identified what I could just with my eye. It doesn't help. It speeds up some of the process, but it definitely does not do even the bulk of the work.
It was
Alright.
cool. I noticed you had a recommendation section there while we were scrolling through. That'll be really interesting for our continued talk about management and these plans to be able to look back at that and see what your takeaways were. That'll be really valuable to us.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, can you email me the report so I can forward it to everyone?
Yeah, I have it pulled up right now.
Okay.
I just have a curiosity question. Now that you've graduated, what are your plans for the future?
That is a great question. The best plan I have right now is that this summer I'll be guiding backpacking, ice climbing, and sea kayaking trips in Alaska for 14 to 16-year-olds.
That's great.
Outside,
Wow, awesome.
I am looking for work,
Very
but I'll be
cool.
doing some traveling. Yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad you were able to jump in and do this work, and it's been really helpful. I'm really hopeful that this can really, take Lauren's work and then take your work, and we can roll this right over into the environmental studies class, which I think is gonna be really cool. Thank you so much for all your help. It's been so great working with you, and there's these resources are so good. I love how you've been thinking about like, what can future people do and how can we get the links to people and like keep going, which is
Right.
really nice. Not a lot of students do work and it sort of fizzles and we never hear from them again after they graduate. And it's really nice to have this really beautiful sort of end deliverable with, all the pieces organized for us to find and use again. So thank you very much for all that work. It's really great.
Yeah, thanks for working with me. It's been a real treat to do all this, and I have tried as much as possible to make it something that could live forward instead of just floating in the wind. So I hope that it goes to good use.
And
Yeah,
also,
super
thank
valuable.
you for meeting with Alex, because now he's hooked on the next project,
Yeah, it was fun. It was cool to meet you and walk around with you, and really looking forward to reading through all this.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and meet with me. That was a great day.
Happy to talk critters anytime.
Well, so I think we should talk about the 401 class, but if you could stay on, because I think we could use your insights as like to think about what the students would like and think about as the project continues. Would that be okay for like 10 or 15 minutes?
Happy to. Sure.
Okay, cool. So we want to figure out this continued collaboration now for spring 24, which starts Monday. So we want to make sure we have a finalized plan for what's happening, finalized mentors. And so Alex had agreed to be the sort of main mentor for those meetings. I'm realizing I should sign on to Zoom so I can share my screen because technology. We would agree to sign on as the mentor, but if anyone wanted to be like a second mentor for those days, that would be great too. I just got an email from Claire Tebs, is that right?
At RPC, yeah,
No.
no?
No, well, I don't know. She's the community liaison, is that right, Alexis? So she was setting things up so that we can get like parking passes and try to organize that sort of thing. So we can get people like actually on campus. So we know, sorry, I'm just so hard to talk and sign on to Zoom. So we can make sure that we have everything lined up. And she sent this really big email out that has like parking passes, where you park, how to walk into the room, all the things we need to know to be on campus. So Alex, I'll forward that to you. I want to see if anyone else has any interest in serving as a secondary person, that maybe the burden's on Alex, but you can come along for the ride and just meet the students and interject and help if that would be fun. We'd love to have you. If not, no pressure. I'm gonna try to share my screen. Oh, please go.
Because it was a Thursdays, Tuesdays.
Yeah, I can't do Thursday either.
Yeah, I have a conflict on Thursdays.
I mean,
I
I could
did
do
ask.
it and bring Harvey.
He'd love it. Yeah, why not?
So,
Alexis, what do you think about that? Harvey is 4.
4.
Oh, I think the kids would love that.
could also bring an iPad.
I think the more voices, the better. I'll also note that I'm planning a field trip for my whole class of
That's right.
18 students to visit some of the Bristol parks that David had been studying to kind of get all the students thinking about shared spaces. Let me figure out what date that is. I sent it to Carolyn, but if anyone would be interested in
Yeah.
meeting us out in the field, maybe Sycamore Park or one of the other parks, just to do like a walk around, we could
Yes.
arrange for that as well, and we'll have like vans from campus. Let me pull up the syllabus.
Yeah, I already have, I talked to Meredith, who just left. She and Zach, who's her rec department assistant, thank you. Yeah, he's the assistant. So either Zach and or Meredith will come on that day. It's
Okay.
March 7th.
Yes.
On Thursday, which means you would probably be arriving in Bristol, let's say 2-ish, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
leaving
leaving
from
at
campus.
like 3:45.
Yeah.
Something like that. In like the big white vans. And so if anyone wanted to come and look at that, I don't know in terms of logistics where that tour should go either, frankly. In terms of the amount, they have an hour and 45 minutes about to be in Bristol. So I'm trying to think like what would even be the best thing to do. And so Meredith and Zach said they would be willing to be there. Of course, I really want someone from the Conservation Commission to be there if possible. It'd be kind of cool to have another perspective, I think, as well. But if not, they said they can handle it. But yeah, I'm thinking Sycamore is obvious because it's on River Road. It's the first one you would get to. But then I don't know if there's time to go to Memorial, if it's worth going to Eagle, because it's slightly closer, go to the town green, be like, this is what a little town like Bristol is like. And this is the kind of park we have, or the Coffin Trail even, like, anyone have any thoughts? They got an hour 45 before they gotta drive back to campus.
Well, I think it depends on what Alex wants her students to see. What is the point of the tour?
I think the main goal is to think about like shared spaces for wildlife and people, like basically everything that David was studying last semester, like how do we have spaces that serve multiple functions, right? They're not just like wilderness areas, but they're not also solely for human activities. What does that look like to manage those spaces? How do you think about them and how people value them in different ways? Also, I just like getting students outside. And the class has 4 different groups, but only one of them is working in Bristol. But that way, by bringing the whole class, they can kind of see what one of the groups is working on. I'm doing a similar thing with visiting some beavers in Ripton for another group. So they kind of get to like exchange with each other what they're working on.
So in that sense, the town green is probably not appropriate since it's not designed for wild animal usage at all.
We
I
could just
wonder
go
if- I
there
wonder if
and
seeing-
contrast it.
Sure.
I wonder if seeing like ends of the spectrum would be useful for them, like Town Green and Memorial. You know, that's certainly our park that's more skewed towards wildlife, involvement, so to speak. Maybe seeing both of those ends of it would be useful for them.
I worry about bringing people to Memorial.
In March.
Yeah, they might end up in the drink, but
Yeah.
You're gonna have to get a rider for that. Let's not do that. So yeah, what about the business park loop? Is that up and running again since the construction's happened?
I don't know.
That would be interesting. Maybe Porter should come help with this. Because she knows a lot about the intersection of people and nature from all the trail work, right? Or the trail behind the high school that then goes through the solar panels. Like that's a pretty interesting use of land in terms of like nature and human influence. That could be a pretty cool case study.
I'm not sure if trees are still down in the trail from the windstorms. I know there was pending cleanup.
What about the coffin trail? Right? We've got the nice historical marker. You can see all the spots where the buildings have all burned out, but the trees have kind of regrown. That's sort of an interesting spot.
Limited 2 vans or 1 van? 2 vans?
It'll be 2, right?
Vans, yeah.
2 alone.
There's somewhat limited parking there, but
2 vans will fit there.
They'll fit, I'm sure.
Yeah. That's possible. There are certainly some options, I think, or like even how you would go if you had a Sycamore for like an hour, and then you could loop and you could do the coffin trail as like a 15-minute little journey. And then you could drive into that new subdivision and just say, oh, look, there's a trail that goes around the edge, and think about that, and then drive back to campus. That could work. So we could think about that. We can make you like a itinerary there. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
That sounded good.
Is anyone available from the commission to help join this day? Or would this be something we'll just see if like Meredith, Zach, and or maybe we could ask if Porter's available, or does someone else
I should.
wanna? You think you can do it?
Yeah.
Okay, Nancy's in. Anyone
March
else?
7th.
March 7th.
Yeah.
And they'll be in town from about 2 to 3:40, 3:45, something like that, I think, right?
Man, your mom was looking for a play date for
There you go.
Zabby, so Harvey could go have a play date.
There you go. Okay. So I'll get an email going about this opportunity. That sounds great. Okay, and then let me just go back and share that screen with you to look at those mentoring dates. So many tabs open. Let me just look back at this one here. And so, as I said, we do now have, we have parking passes we can print. We have some more details from the school about what's expected for these days. And the first one is 1:30 to 3 on campus, and there's one of those each month. There's Thursday the 22nd, the March 28th, and then April 18th for an hour and a half. And I think there was an option to Zoom in as well, if that would be of interest to someone. And then we have Alex down for those 3 sort of main meetings. And then we have spots, just if anyone want to be an audience member, they're gonna do their final presentations, and there'll be 5 different projects. Is that right, Alexis? There's 5 groups doing their presentations that day, or there are 4 groups? Okay, there's 4 groups, and those other groups are gonna be doing work with the Ripton Conservation Commission, with 2 other things I can't remember, and they should be really interesting. We could learn a lot about what other groups are doing as well, so that could be cool. So if you wanted to attend that. And then we have this final slot that we're looking to see if someone would be interested in doing this kind of community presentation. There had been a thought last time that if we had a 20-minute presentation by students, maybe we could pair that with a 20-minute presentation by someone else, maybe someone with wildlife. I can't remember what name was thrown around before, but that maybe Sophie, was it?
Maswita, I might have been the one that was supposed to find out if she could do that.
Well, are you
I
gonna
have
be, can we
a-
write you down as the, or, sir?
I have a friend who might be a good candidate for that if we're in the market. He was PR guy for Fish and Wildlife for a while and is a outdoor writer that is living in Middlebury now. Would certainly be a cool voice if that was of interest.
That would be
Sounds good.
cool.
Do you know
Yeah.
Chris Ingram actually, Carolyn? Is that a familiar name to you?
What's the
Ingram?
name?
Chris Ingram.
Oh, I don't know.
You might recognize him. He's kind of around town, but he would be
Yeah.
kind of a cool guy for that. I think he'd be into it.
Mm-hmm.
I can check in with him.
Is there anyone that would be able to just be in charge of organizing this event? This is, kind of in that crunch when we're also doing the Eagle Park. This is also around the time of year we have Green Up Day, so it's a bit of a crunch time for our commission, but it would be great if we could have someone that could volunteer to organize, like putting there some people, putting out some front porch forum ads and reserving Holly Hall or whatever. It would just be nice if someone could take the reins on that.
So is your vision for that like a community night where they come and just, so essentially like presentations and
I think
talking?
so. Unless they do it
having
on Zoom,
community
that'd be
there.
better. Yeah. Or we could do it on Zoom. We could just have them present at our meeting. Does that line
Does
up
that
right?
fall
I
in
don't know
the
if that
same?
lines up right. Let me see. The students were gonna be 13 through 21st. No, our meeting would be the 9th in May,
Mm.
which is the day of the presentations the students are doing. Or possibly that's the 7th. We have two different dates.
So Tuesday is the other section. My section is doing their presentations on the Thursday. So you
Okay.
could have them do the short presentation Thursday on campus and then come to the BCC meeting that evening.
Mhm. So we
Potentially.
could do like a short version, like, which depends if we want to make an event and invite some people, or if we want to do it as an outreach. We haven't done many outreach presentations lately because of COVID, but it depends if we want to organize that or not, right? Yeah.
We could dedicate that meeting time to that event.
We could.
And that way it
And
would
just
be
do it at the
in
same time,
person
kind of?
and Zoom.
Let me see what we had on that meeting slot. Remember we had that calendar we were working on?
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be nice to do something.
Mhm.
Especially to present all this work that so many people have worked on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just looking for that document and my Google's all confused right now because it's hooked up to Zoom. But anyhow, yeah, we could dedicate that meeting to that if we thought that would be a good idea. I'm up for whatever it is we want to do with that.
How much content would be? Students would be presenting at this as well? That
The
community event?
presentation would be,
That's
yeah,
fine.
we basically have a free 20-minute presentation offered from the students if we want it.
Okay.
Right?
That's it. They can do whatever you guys want. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to bring in experts. Like it's purely just like if you want them to basically bring the presentation to your community instead of it just being restricted to the campus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that might be a nice way to do it. Like if they're presenting that Thursday afternoon on campus, we attend, but then they repeat the same presentation in the context of our monthly meeting, but then that's accessible to the community.
Yeah, and we
Through
could,
Zoom.
if
That's
they
great.
do it on Zoom, yeah, we could do it in like a Zoom friendly way.
Right. Yeah.
And then we could just advertise it a bunch and say they're gonna be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we want to reserve the meeting for that, we could see if there's anyone else who want to have come in. Lewis Creek Association often has things I'd like to share,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be a good idea? Do you like that idea? Okay. sounds
Love it.
good. Okay, so then if it's just our regular meeting, then I'll do that because I organize our meetings anyway. Great. And then does anyone want to sign up to come with Alex? I really want people's names on here so we can make sure you get the parking passes. I don't want anyone getting a ticket over this. So I just really like, if you want to do it, let's get your name on here so we know you're coming. You can always email me or Alex last minute, but I just want to make sure.
And I should
Okay.
reiterate too, I don't want to, step on anybody's toes by taking all these slots here. I'm super fired up about the project, and I'll do as much of it as can be done. But I don't, if anybody else wanted to like take over any of those meetings, I don't want to budge you out of it,
Okay, well, sounds good. So
Yeah, I would
Alex,
love to be involved, but I'm free on Thursdays. And every meeting is on a Thursday, so I just,
Yeah.
makes it hard.
that sounds great. Okay, so, so what we're gonna do then is Alex will be in charge. Alex, I'll forward you the information from the community organizer and at the campus, and then, we'll make sure you get all that information, or you're hooked up with her and Alexis as well, to make sure that you're like in charge, okay?
In
and then let me
charge.
see what, you're in charge. It's gonna be, it's gonna be your show. It's gonna be amazing. So we've got that. We sent a project proposal statement. I just want to say that was really well written, and Alexis did an amazing job. I was shocked. Our project sounded so good. So thank you for doing that. I hope people had a chance to read that. And then that last piece I have under our agenda is possible tracking educational training, possibly to pair with the 401. So let's just keep thinking of those ideas, or someone you would like to invite. Alex, if you see Zaylee, if she ever gets off the side of the road, she talks to the.
She made it. She is here.
She made it.
Everybody made it.
I know she gets things from Lewis Creek Association sometimes. There's something there. If you have a friend, if we can talk to Sophie, right? Let's think about people we can plug into that day. That sounds great. Any last comments or questions we have before the semester starts for this big project? Okay, cool. Sounds good then. This is super exciting. And I can't wait to see what they end up coming up with. This is gonna be so cool.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun semester, and you'll have 5 students in your group. So there's 2 bigger groups and 2 smaller groups. And so this will be one of the bigger groups.
Yeah. I saw on the project proposal, there wasn't too much on there about community engagement, but if they want to do more with that, one thing we talked about last week, just so it's on your radar, under mine, Alex, about, we've been tasked with making, what was it? We were gonna make a pamphlet about endangered species?
Rare, threatened, and
Rare,
endangered
threatened
species.
species.
If property owners, a pamphlet for property owners to review what they could do on their land if they had
Yeah.
large land holdings and the potential for rare, threatened, and endangered.
Yeah, the town about 5 years ago asked us to make that, and we never made it. So.
They might be able to do it. The way I write the project descriptions is to make it so students can kind of line up their skills. So like, I really
course.
want the GIS students to sign up for your project. Another option is I have always independent study students who can do such activities. For you. So
Yeah, we just realized that we forgot to do that for several years, and we thought, well, if there's a student who really wants to do public engagement, this could be an opportunity.
I took another student as an independent study student who was in my mammalogy class last semester to kind of help me manage a bunch of the Bristol stuff, bridging David and 401. So yeah, that could be something she works on.
Well, we want to let you just know that that's out there. That, yeah, it was just supposed to be something so the landowners would just be aware, right? As opposed to like telling anyone what to do or anything. Just to be aware, these are the kinds of species and what you might think about.
Yeah, what resources are available for managing
Yeah.
your properties. Yeah.
Are these officially species of greatest conservation concern, like the SGCN species?
Not specific to those necessarily, but just like, yeah, rare, threatened, and endangered, whatever falls under that.
Yeah, it's like a one sentence request that's in the town plan. And we could, if we ever thought about if your students are interested in it, we could share that more information that we have.
Okay,
I feel
I
like
asked.
it could be useful to be, I mean, broaden beyond the rare and endangered species, but I mean, just that, like, I feel like a lot of landowners, new landowners that may not be familiar with such conversations might be very interested to know that, like, things like that thicket at the base of your hill is pretty critical to a lot of different critters. And that's how bobcat get from X to Y. And that might just be great information for them, like, and it doesn't have to be critically, endangered species or something that are using that land, but they might like to know, and it might be great for keeping other animals out of such categories, if they had that information.
Yeah,
We were
I
just
think
brainstorming, and we thought of that idea as, like, if some students at a loose end, that's a small project that's very distinct, it's a very, like, specific project that, like, maybe a student that's at a loose end might pick up if they didn't quite know how to contribute to the group.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think they could put it into the kind of overarching theme of the project. The only other thing I was gonna say is one of the other groups is updating the Vermont wildlife action plan. And so they're doing all the species of greatest conservation concern, like small mammals, and depending on how quickly they go, some of the other species. And those are plans that, if you're familiar, that's how the state gets funding through, like, these funds specifically allocated to wildlife action plans, like states get them. And those documents are specifically geared towards not just government, but in theory should be accessible to private landowners. Like, the guidance is relevant. So there's like 2 projects that are kind of relevant in the class.
That's awesome. But yeah, anyhow, we're just excited to see what ends up happening. Like, who knows what the students will choose to do, and it should be fun to see how it goes, I'm glad that we have this opportunity for them to have ownership, because there's a lot of work that can be done and no one else is going to do it. So it's awesome to see what they can pull out. It'll be really cool, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We are very excited about seeing where this all goes. And I guess that should be it. Are we good? Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, we'll be in touch throughout the semester. Bye. Thank you. Thanks, David.
Good luck in Alaska.
Okay, let's see. So item C, operating budget check-in. So I attempted to check in on the operating budget, and it turns out the town treasurer spot is vacant and has been since November, which I was not aware of. So that means that there's been some difficulties in tracking the budget, even a budget as small as ours. I was told that we currently have 60 some dollars and 20 cents in our account, which didn't seem to make a lot of sense. And so we're gonna try to get to the bottom of that. And we'll do our best. As far as I know, Helen turned in a receipt for $80 this year. So as far as I know, we should have 220, unless our budget is 200, although I thought it was 300, then we would still have 120. So we're just gonna work on that. But I want to let you know that that's happening. And then if there are problems, maybe we could tap the ESDOC fund for a couple $100 to get us through this one weird treasurerless year if we need to. In case I feel bad burdening them with the details of our very tiny budget too, because they seem like they're really busy. So we'll just sort of see how that goes. But I want to let you know about it. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, I'm working on it. Everyone's trying really hard. It sounds like. I felt bad for even emailing. But the ESDOC fund does have about $4,000 in it. And then the Andrew Johnson bequeath money that's sort of in a high yield savings or CDs and things like that. They're trying to have that grow, and then they can use the interest for tree plantings or uses the select board feels are in keeping with the spirit of that money. So that means that there's about $4,000 sitting there that could be spent on trees. However, the town just got $50,000 to plant trees in a big grant. So that's very exciting. So they were thinking they probably don't need to use that money this year since there's so many trees that are going to be able to be planted, but just to keep track. I know if we don't talk about it, we sort of lose the thread and we'll forget they exist. So I just want to make sure we remember those funds exist. So that's pretty exciting stuff.
Car-
There's a lot of money out there.
Carolyn, does the town manage that either stock fund at all? Is that
I don't.
pooled in with?
Yeah, so when I asked them, they sent, and again, because there isn't a treasurer, I feel like it's a little bit different maybe, but they said that unless we spent the stock money, it shouldn't have changed, ergo it should be about 4,000 still. So I don't actually know where that's located. And then when I
It sounds
asked
like
about
they
the
don't manage it. It just occurred to me that
There are
the CD
constraints on
rates.
municipalities
What
to
was
do
that?
that. There are constraints on municipalities for managing money like that. They can't, they're not like private individuals that could just go out and
You can't
invest
just,
it
like,
somewhere.
Well, there's different ways of managing. So a CD is federally insured, and the rates were just at 5.5% for, say, a 10-month CD. It's not much on $4,000, but I just didn't know if there was any ability to do something along those lines. It's kind of
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I would wait until we have a treasurer for that. They did send me though information about the A. Johnson bequest, and that is at the North Country Bank, and it is invested in a CD, I believe. And they sent me information on that. So that one is accruing interest at about, I don't know, if they said 4,000, about 4 or something. But I don't know about the stock fund. They didn't have any additional information for me about that. But they did get that, the money for those trees though, with the 50 grand, which is pretty cool. So that's all I got. I'm sorry.
Where was that coming from? Where's the 50,000 for trees? Where did
It
that?
is from Vermont Forests and Parks.
Who's doing the trees? Like, is it the select
My
board? Is it the rec
understanding is it's
department?
the Emerald Ash Borer Committee.
Oh,
Slowly,
yeah.
who's left on that committee has sort of morphed into a tree committee. And they were thinking about the trees that got pulled down.
Okay.
And then they were getting money to put
Okay.
those trees in. And it sounds like they're gonna try to put in some small trees as well as pay for a few larger trees we put in. But I don't know too many details about it.
That's a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's our budget check-in. Questions about budget? Anyone want to be the treasurer? Help us out? No, because the town doesn't have one. And they could use one too. Anyone want to be the real treasurer? Okay, we'll think about that when I think our annual meeting is next meeting, so maybe we should get a treasurer, because there seems to be it's hard to track the 300 or so we have as is. Okay, if I can't keep track of 300, I don't know how the town's doing it. Oh my God, a lot of people are helping out, it sounds like, and trying to fill that void. Okay, Green Up Day is May 4th. May the 4th be with you. I love when it falls on the 4th. So we're gonna sort of do what we did last year is the plan. I talked to Meredith, we're gonna get some tables. Hopefully we can do some no mow signs we can talk about and hand out like last year. We got a couple of camp chairs. We'll pass out bags. I'm gonna have bags at Holly Hall starting a week in advance. And then we're going to have just bags that we'll hand out day of as well. I've got the school on board. They're passing things out. We actually asked for a lot more like prizes this year because there's just a lot of students are being left out of the prizes, which I didn't know about. So we're gonna do that. And we're also gonna try to get them gloves as well this year because they said that they were increasingly concerned about what the students were touching. So we're gonna try to get them some gloves through Green Up Day, if possible, to cover that. Yeah. So that's the Green Up Day stuff. Just the normal Green Up Day is the plan. Normal as of last year. Cool. That's what's happening there. Any Green Up Day questions or comments? Okay. Conservation Commission membership. We have one vacancy. Ask your friends and family. Yeah, we just cannot figure out this. There's always one vacancy, I swear. So let's see, who has any friends or thoughts, get the message out. Any new business? I don't think anything was new and no one added anything to the agenda. But I guess if you want to at the last minute, if you remember something, you could. Yeah,
Just mention, I forgot under parks updates that
Mhm.
John Merriman and I helped the town review the proposals received regarding accessibility improvements at
Oh.
Eagle Memorial and Sycamore, and I expect Monday night select board meeting, the select board will be reviewing those.
okay,
It sounded like it was gonna be next on the agenda for them.
okay, very cool. And what is that, where is that in the process then, in terms of like designing things or like breaking ground? Like, where are we in the process here? Or just, I don't really want to mind around it.
The proposal, request for proposal went out earlier this year, maybe even last year. And these are the proposals that were received. So John and I volunteered to help review them. So the select board needs to review all of them and make a choice about which team to select.
And then they would start
then-
making the parks more accessible, like.
Then their
next-
task is to conduct site visits to each of the 3 parks, hold public meetings
Mhm.
to get citizen input,
Okay,
and produce conceptual drawings of
got it. Okay,
options for improved accessibility.
got it. Okay, when you said propose, I was like, what kind of proposal? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There
sounds good.
there were, I think I recall 6 engineering firms responded to the RFP. And, anyway, some were
And I'm
pretty
not
big.
sure that we.
Oh,
should
no, of
say
course. I
anything
don't want any
about that, yeah.
details. Yeah, I just want generally, what are we even talking
No,
about?
no,
Yeah.
but so, they were providing what they were going to propose. And then that's what we reviewed about how thorough and how responsive to what we were looking for they were, I think. And then the last I knew was, Porter and Valerie were gonna go over them. I don't know if Kristen, you were involved with that or not.
No, the next step is for the select board to review them, but I think they've had so much on their
Mhm.
plates that it keeps getting pushed to the next meeting. So
Right,
it's sounding like this coming Monday's select board meeting would be, possibly, it'll be on the agenda. They'll let us know Friday, I guess.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for both doing all that work.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Thank you. I'm glad that we have a voice at the table. That's really good to know.
Yeah, and that scope of work would be happening over the next 6 months or so.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, and then with that, I think I want to remind everyone that there's no current events scheduled, but then the next meeting is March 14th. And it will be the annual meeting because it'll be the first meeting after town hall meeting day. But it doesn't really mean a lot. It just means we elect people. Otherwise it's a normal meeting usually. And then I guess that's it. Sound good?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I'll see you all on March 14th.
Who's gonna make a motion?
Would you like to take a motion now?
I'm happy to make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Awesome. I'll second. All those in favor?
Hi.
The motion carries. We are adjourned. See you next week, next month.
thank you.
Good to see you guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.